And so I forgot this. Yeah, we're here to introduce ourselves, right? And the HOA office, have a discussion with you and learn from you. And I'm going to actually now hand over to Gary and let him talk about the HOA office. We're going to do a 2-minute review and then we'll jump in some pulse questions.
Well, thanks everybody for joining us. And just wanted to give you a quick overview. If you didn't know, this office was created way back in 2011. However, it's only an informational office. There's no investigation, no enforcement of HOAs. It's really there to help you as real estate professionals and consumers understand rights and responsibilities under the Colorado Common Interest Ownership Act, which is called Kiowa. And just so you know, there's only 3 states in the country, Florida, Nevada, and Virginia, that do have government agencies that enforce for HOAs. So I don't know what you guys guessed, but we currently have registered 10,700 HOAs. We believe there's more. That equates to 879,000 units or homes, 2.3 million people living in HOAs, which is roughly 40% of our population. We get about 4,000 inquiries per year by consumers, and we deal with about 800 complaints per year. Just a quick run through, and we have these things on the website. Kiowa is the main law that you deal with HOAs. Then, since they are corporations, not government entities, you deal with the Colorado Revised Nonprofit Corporation Act. And then HOAs have governing documents, decks, bylaws, rules, regs, policies, and then we have some federal and state fair housing laws. So people always ask, what do we do? Well, we provide information, reports to the public. We do an annual report that just came out. We have education forums. We manage the complaints. We have a huge public web presence. We register the HOAs, and we create education materials and resources for you and your clients. However, there are things we are not allowed to do under statute. We cannot regulate the HOAs or advocate on someone's behalf. We can't assess fines or penalties like we do for licensees. We can't even jump in to mediate or arbitrate or give legal advice or enforce the registration. It's a voluntary enforcement.
Oh, sorry, I was muted. So yeah, sorry, I was muted. Right, and that's a real quick synopsis of what we do at the HO office. We are that resource, and we get a lot of people to contact us. We get people from your profession, from your industry, and we get that common person who is purchasing, or the person who lives in the HOA, and then the person who's running the HOA. But today we want to talk about that person who's buying, and I'm sure you folks are not looking at the news. In the last 2 or 3 weeks, there's been a flurry actually of articles of the local news stations out of Denver on HOAs, particularly one of them in the southwest corner of the area, the Front Range area of Denver. And you know, when you read the article, it sounds but when you look at the details, you kind of can understand why. And I think that the journey for the person who gets flustered with their HOA traditionally starts before they buy, and that's what we have found out from our research. And so today we're here to talk to you about that person who is a first-time buyer in an HOA. And it's not me. If I was a first-time buyer in an HOA, I'll be honest about who I am. I'm aloof. I like looking at flowers. I don't look at details, and I would be like, hey, this is great, and not realize what I was doing. So we're really not talking about me here. We're talking about that person who's actually reaching out and finding information or wants to know more. And that person who's making that effort to learn those ins and outs. The person who might have a 50-pound dog and they really need to know that 45 pounds is potentially a weight limit, which, you know, we get complaints about. And for those who might not understand the rights, to the point of what it means to become part of a corporation, a business transaction. I think that's the reality that we're finding, is that new first-time home buyer is not understanding that reality. And when the market is running smoothly in some ways for the sellers, the buyers and HOAs are challenged. And so we want to just talk about those folks. And the way we want to talk is we want to ask you a series of questions. And we know there's some people in a room there, and we know there's some people who are at home. We're going to make sure you get access to these questions. And so we're just going to go over them first with you. There's simply 3 of them. We want to know when do you discuss purchasing in an HOA during the transaction process? Let us know when and why. Is it a secret to your success? Is it something you were trained? Is it for best practice? But give us a little thought on that. Second, we want to know what are some of the challenges of Section 7 of the CBS, because a lot, again, of the people who we get challenges, who complain and file complaints with us, and a lot of complaints that get just simply dismissed against brokers, is focused on Section 7. And so we want to know how you, again, are seeing why Section 7 is such a challenge to help them understand. And what are the resources you use to help educate clients buying in an HOA? So this section, we want to know where are you going, where you send them. Do you have a product yourself that you provide? Because resources are part of our mission, they're part of our what we're here for, and we have some resources we want to communicate with you on. So for you, those who are in the room, we were told again that it was a hybrid. You have a QR code, a 2D picture you can use your phone with. Or you can use this URL to get to the pulse survey. And for the folks who are on the call, like Gary and I'm going to put in the chat right now for you folks the link to it. So I'm just going to find the chat. That's under more. Where is the chat? Oh God, why is it not doing it? Oh, there it is. And here you folks go in the chat. Boom, that's the link. So take a few minutes, 3 questions. I just want to know what you think. We're going to be looking at them in the back end. And after this, we'll move into discussion on them. And so I'll just leave this up on the screen for anyone who needs it. Again, inside the chat on the Zoom, we have the link to the form or the survey. And we just want to hear what you have to think. And so we can have a conversation. Gary, you have any thoughts on that?
No, what we're trying to do also is by you guys answering and giving us ideas, that'll help us create more and better resources for you and your clients. So whatever you can do to help us out here, so we know where the pitfalls are, we know where those challenges are in dealing with your clients of coming into an HOA. Remember, you've got people coming, if they're coming from California, they're used to HOAs, same in Nevada. But if they're coming from the Midwest, there's a good chance they may not have ever been in an HOA before. So it's brand new to them. So we're trying to get some help from you guys because we get a lot of calls about these pulse questions. Folks will tell us, hey, we didn't know anything about it. We don't know who to ask. We don't know where to go to. So anything we can get from your responses and our discussion today will help us create more and better resources.
All right, so we'll give you guys a few more moments, or about another minute, and then what we have is what we'll use. All right, well, it looks like we got everything we're going to get, so I'm going to let that be over to the side, and I'm going to move on. And so we're just going to follow up now with pulse question 1. So when you discuss that purchase, our responses are telling us immediately. And Gary, at the very beginning of the process, we do this at the very beginning because some buyers are not aware of HOAs when considering which properties to see. They're very prevalent in our community. Okay, so yeah, everyone who said that, awesome. Thank you. Do it as fast as possible. Gary, feel free to expand on that. It really can't be said any more than that.
Yeah, I just want to, when you say immediately at the very beginning, is that at the time of the listing or prior to, or at an open house, or what? Give us a little more what immediate means.
So there's a person that just answered. If that person doesn't jump on, Gary, I want to say this one I love. When I ask what they are looking for, so that we include or eliminate specific properties. Mm-hmm. Whoever said that, what I like about that is it also helps them kind of, when you do that, it also helps set the stage that there's this reality check that there's a difference. When you do that, do you find that helps the person almost then say to themselves, oh, is there a difference? And it helps you lead to help educate them? And you don't have to follow up. You can just blurt out, comment, or you don't have to do anything if you don't want. But when I saw that just seems to be a really nice starter point. Because again, when we speak to our consumers, they don't seem to remember when that was communicated with them. And we know you folks are. So immediately is always great. But like we said, this one just seems like I like the extension of that. So if anyone had, oh, we got a couple comments coming in under the chat. When speaking about properties to consider, so sometimes at first meeting, okay. And Sarah says yes. So Sarah must be answering my question. Thank you, Sarah. So Gary, I'm just going to pop to the next slide for you. I'll let you just talk about some of the thoughts we have for them.
Sure. And no, that's good to hear. I like those answers because a lot of people do call, just like Cory said, they either say they don't remember having this discussion about the HOA, because remember, what happens is once they're in, if they don't like it, who are they going to blame? They're going to go back to the realtor and they're going to say, you never told me enough about it. I didn't know about this HOA or what it really meant. So the earlier on in the process, the better. That's great. They have to understand, you know, when you discuss purchasing, there's a lot to it. You're signing a contract. When a subdivision is created, the HOA is created by the developer at that time, by what's called the declarant. That way, you buy a property, you're subject to it. It runs with the land. Then folks need to understand, to use their due diligence to review their governing documents and the documents that they're going to live under. So the due diligence, you really have to stress to them. And if they don't understand something, you need to maybe tell them to get to some experts to help explain that and what they're subject to.
If anyone has any thoughts on anything we're saying, feel free to blurt, raise hand if that's a function in Zoom, or throw in the chat. So pulse question 2. This one to us is the crux of the issue. Section 7 is, we understand, and I'm sure you folks do too, that Section 7 is not there for you to really do anything other than make sure they understand that this is their responsibility. And I'm sure we all can agree that's the biggest challenge. Now, when I look at my responses, the seller doesn't know where to find their HOA documents. And of course, that's a huge issue as well. And so what I'd like to know is, in those scenarios, and not just when the seller can't find the document, or when these people actually go do that earnest effort and they're doing their due diligence, but they're coming up against a roadblock, like 12 days will be before they get the documents, or maybe they can't find the documents that they really want. How do you communicate with them on that in a market where my understanding is you folks get offers pretty quickly on properties? Some might say, Stephanie, the market is upside down. No one, Melanie got my joke. Ken did. Gary finally figured it out. Sorry. But seriously, we have a question from Kevin. We're going to answer, and Betsy just brought up when speaking about the properties to consider. So something. Okay, that was an early one. Sorry. Kevin, we'll jump on your question in a second. Actually, we'll go to your question now. So Gary, Kevin's asking, who's a good expert to refer buyers to in regards to HOA documents? This is one of the guidance factors, Kevin, that we're starting to build, just so you know, for the upcoming year to help figure this out. Go ahead, Gary.
Yeah, I mean, as far as experts go, you know, it depends on the situation of the HOA. Obviously, an HOA attorney can discuss the legalities of some HOA documents. You're kind of in a position just like you are with title documents. You can't go through, you know, B3 exceptions and explain those in the title. It's beyond the scope of what a broker can do. Same thing, if you can refer them to, if you have a local HOA attorney, or set up a relationship with that, or if you're dealing with the financial ability of the HOA. You don't want to get your new buyer in a place where, you know, there's no reserves, or they've got a lot of projects coming up, and how do you have to pay for it? Are there going to be special assessments? And a lot of times a CPA can quickly look over and see if the financial health of that HOA is in order. So, we have general information, but we can't give that legal or practical advice where an expert can talk about what things are going to look like in the future for the HOA, or what you're bound by, or what you might be able to get out of.
Kevin, to follow up on Gary, one of the things we've learned now, you folks, I think, are a sixth time we've spoken to groups. We're finding that you guys are literally putting together local archives. We're finding that the associations in Steamboat and in Loveland both have, for lack of better words, an organization. The ones in Steamboat, actually, there's like an organization that they put together that is dealing with this. And then, like I said, up in Loveland, they are literally doing it together, and they have a local just archive of this. This is a challenge. And Kevin, if you look at some of the bills that are currently posed at the legislature, this is a topic that they're trying to wrinkle out. Ultimately, though, I think the truth is this is one of the bigger challenges that we'll continue to deal with until there's a structured way that people are required to. But like I said, we're finding that the local associations are finding ways to work together to create those archives, so that even if the puzzle isn't complete, you can find some product. And so we're talking like once one person gets the minutes from the last X years, boom, you have those. Get those in an archive. If it's something that is a challenge to you folks as an association, meaning that you folks feel that it would benefit you to have that, and it would benefit your consumer. Again, not knowing your consumer, but yeah, that's a good challenge. And we get that question to us daily as well. So they're trying to find that information. We know that it's not easy to find, particularly with the smaller associations. And that's the other reason why archiving it is really essential, because they just tend not to. And that's just part of the reality of that. So Kevin was the last question there. We have our point on the thing, and we're going to move to question 3. Oh, sorry, go ahead, Gary.
To follow up with Kevin too, the reason I put in an HOA attorney is, I'm in the real estate bar section, and when I talk to other attorneys, even on HOA matters, most real estate attorneys don't deal with HOAs. It's few and far between. So whoever you're going to network with, talk to that attorney that they're familiar with HOA matters, because it is quite a specialty. And I also like that challenge of Section 7, one of the responses, seller doesn't know where to find their HOA documents. That's something that is a problem. I mean, under the statute, not just under Section 7 of the buy-sell contract, but under statute, the seller is responsible to provide those documents. So the seller really has to find out from their management company or the board, or if they're using a third-party provider to get those documents, who has them. I doubt many sellers keep all the records for all the years they live there, or even have those things anymore. So what are some best practices?
Oh, sorry, Gary.
You're really trying to, not explain the HOA documents, but letting your buyer know that they're buying into an HOA. You're helping them understand what that is. And there's a lot of documents besides the decks, the corporate minutes, insurance information, assessment, financial, possible construction defects. There's a lot for them to go through. Section 7 says what documents should be provided to the buyer. You may have buyers that want more documents, and they want to go further past to see what the history is like. Also, the financial stability, important to see, are dues going to go up? Have they gone up in the last 2-3 years? Is it going to be a special assessment coming? Is there, any problem with reserves? Do they have reserves? And they have to know that they're buying in a corporation. This is not a quasi-government entity like a lot of people think. It is a nonprofit corporation. It falls under the Nonprofit Corporation Act. And really important, Cory and I learned from our investigators, utilize your transaction file. When you talk to these folks about Section 7 or anything with HOAs, write that down and keep that in your transaction file as a record that you had these discussions and what you talked about. It'll help you if they ever bring a complaint.
That is the #1 way we dismiss those cases. Not only that, but obviously it's hard to prove that you didn't do your job there in that scenario. So with that said, thanks, Gary. Yeah, transaction file is your best friend in this scenario with Section 7 or any of the sections that you're dealing with inside the HOA component. So poll question 3, we asked you, what are some of the resources that you use, for that? Again, we're not talking about everyone who buys an HOA. My brother has bought 5 houses in Highlands Ranch. I think he knows HOAs. We're talking about the naive, the earnest, the person that really needs to understand that they will tell you to get your dog out of there if it's over, a certain size. And so how do we get the resources to those folks who are trying to figure that out or need to know that? And you folks have brought up several great examples. We're learning that the HOAs themselves provide, they have great resources, and PUDs as well, which is, it hasn't been brought up before, but thank you for that. Here's one that I thought was just awesome, was whoever wrote, you actually get them in touch with the president of the HOA. I think that's a really nice thought, and I think it's a great way of showing accountability for both you to help you show that you're actually making sure they get right to the core, but it also helps see what is that core. That president is not competent or to the standard of what that person thinks. They'll get that impression, and that might help them out. Title company, awesome. Past clients and experiences, and knowing who's in charge, that's really great too. And of course, that listing broker. So we really want to make sure that we are tasked with providing resources as well. And the HOA office is literally an information resource center. But we wanted to today just make sure you knew about our resources. We provide our resources typically are through you're going to find them all on our website. I'll show you where in a second. And we're building them out as we go along. And right now there's 5 particular resources that we think are important for you folks to know about. We have a resource page on the home buying process, understanding self-managed HOAs, buying in an HOA for the first time, working with real estate professionals. And then on the side for you, if you're doing social media, we have social media assets built that you can obviously steal and use. And what they do is they drive people to our pages. Why is our information important? Consumers in the internet age believe in government websites, where they number one, and it's not number one, the second most trusted website you have out there for consumers. And so if you're trying to help that consumer have a unbiased view, feel free to use us, right? Feel free to take our web pages and put them on your, reference them and link them through your sites, your consumer site websites or pages of your website. And so, as I was saying, we do have this set up for you on the website, and you might not know this, right? Because you're all pretty busy doing your jobs. We understand that completely. And so what we did is we created a landing page for you, and it's just called Assisting-Buyers. And I'm just going to go to it real quick. And Assisting Buyers is right here, and it's just a landing page. It's going to drive you to those other pages or to the resources, which are right down here. You can view them and download them. And how you would get to this page, you could just type in Assisting Buyers Division, or you can go to Brokers, and you'll find us under your Resources section. So here's a great place, buying in an HOA. We've created what we call to action pages. And we have identified that people who are searching online in Colorado, one of the top searches when it comes is buying in an HOA. And so we developed a page to help them do some pretty quick due diligence to help them see if they're comfortable or not. Again, we're not talking about my brother, 5-time buyer in Highlands Ranch, literally an HOA, not even a community. It's a community that is an HOA or HOAs. But for that person who, like Gary said, that Midwestern folk that might not be used to this, or folk like me from the East Coast, where we don't have much HOA interaction as well, or any common interest communities. And so this page is designed for that person, and we want to make sure you folks know about this page along with the other ones that we have. And again, through your landing page, Assisting Buyers, we will continue to develop and provide more resources for you. And hopefully you'll feel comfortable to always come back here or know that this is where we collectively provide the resources that we use for consumers in your section of the website, so you don't get lost looking for them or having to find them all yourself. Because that is essentially what we're here for. And so with that, we just want to make sure you knew about those resources, right? And again, that's where they're at.
And we have all of our HOA forums we've done over the years. We have buyer education videos. We put those all up on YouTube on our channel. So we have a lot of information if you or your client really wants to dig into it.
And 3 more slides. Make it quick for you folks. The bid will come off. Quick licensee check-in, 60 seconds. Make sure you're caught up. New contracts and forms by now, folks. You should all know about. They virtually no issues this year. If you have questions with the new contracts and forms, contact me. I will absolutely be able to help you out. That's a real big component of what I do. So feel free to talk to us about that. Annual update course is Gary, 2022. Do it early. Do it at least once. And then the 2022 real estate manual has been updated, obviously, and it is ready to go. It's fresh. You can go online and get the abridged, or you can order the actual product if you want the big thick thing or the digital. And then we just want to say thank you, of course. You really helped us with some of your comments. We'll continue to develop guidance practice for call to actions for consumers who are with actions. And last, if you have a moment, we have one last survey. Just take a moment, and I'm going to give you guys the link. And it's just, let us know how this works. One of the things we're trying to do here, folks, is make sure we find ways to allow you to talk to us. We have the Directly from the Director series. We get about 3,000 people who attend that. The problem with that is that when we talk about subjects with 3,000 people, you're not going to be heard or be able to ask questions, or we're not going to really be able to understand you. And so we're trying to find ways to do more micro conversations, more micro breakdown opportunities to hear what you have to say, to understand the challenges that you're dealing with. We'll be bringing in on different conversations like this with different experts from the division, such as Marcia, such as Eric, and so on and so forth. And you'll be able to have more of an in-depth conversation with people that you really want to hear from, other than comms people like me. So that's what we got for you today, folks. Gary, feel free to close it out. Thank you so much, everyone. You guys enjoy your day with 4 inches or less.
Yeah, and if you have any questions that we can address for you now, happy to do it. Otherwise, you can always reach me. Email is just first name dot last name Gary.Kujawski at state.co.us. Just let us know. What we're trying to do is we're trying to be a one-stop shop for you and your clients to get as much HOA information as possible, so you can direct them as not getting into depth yourself. You can say, here's all the stuff the division has, have at it. And then if they can contact us. If we can provide other resources, we'll do that too. But if you have any other questions before we go, happy to do it.
Thank you, Melanie, for putting that in the chat. Gary, thank you for that. And of course, we're here until all your questions are gone. We do have one last question so far, which is, what are your thoughts about HOAs trying to stop short-term rentals? Gary, go ahead. Thank you, Melanie, for putting mine in there. Well, topic discussion, Gary.
Yeah, but that's something that your cities and municipalities have also put in. It's a revenue making device for certain municipalities. My HOA does not allow them. You have to have a minimum 1-year lease. It comes down to, what the community wants, how the community is made up. You guys are in a different community. You're obviously in a community where you've got folks coming in and out, vacation rentals and such. So the HOA may be bound by it if your municipality has already passed some regulations. So they may be stuck. But again, that's up to the community. It's up to the board of directors in doing that. And they have their own reasons, and it's unique to each HOA.
And that right now is being talked about at the legislature. So, you don't never know, Joanna. And folks to be aware that we never know. We'll have some changes every time we have a legislative session. We'll make sure you get information on that. Some of it could be impactful to folks that live in HOAs, selling houses or buying houses in HOAs. And always there's probably some little legislation that will affect you. We'll make sure that you get knowledge on that once it becomes effective or passed.
Oh, and maybe one last thing, because I know I got a couple questions on it, is there is no longer any licensing of community association managers. That went by the wayside about 2 years ago. That is being talked about again this session, if they are going to start regulating and licensing community association managers again, but it's been gone for about 2 years.
All right. Well, it looks like our questions have stopped. So Melanie, I'm just going to say thank you. And to everyone, thanks for your time.